Well, if you thought that was extreme, you won't believe this, or maybe you will because it happened on The View. This is Whoopi Goldberg. She gave a shocking claim about how Black people in our country are comparing to what it's like to live in Iran.
Let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay.
Minutes seemed to stretch endlessly, and just then, Kayleigh McEnany dropped a truth so sharp it left Whoopi Goldberg visibly stunned. One moment, Whoopi was delivering her usual quips on The View, and the next, she was met with Kay's unyielding gaze and facts that silenced the room. The chatter stopped. The cups stood still. Whoopi. She looked like she'd just received unexpected news. What exactly did Kay say that left the entire studio in shock? It was a moment worth watching.
Goldberg has millions of dollars. Whoopi Goldberg is a famous actress. She's on a talk show, Kennedy, and it's time to educate Whoopi Goldberg. Let's meet Mahsa Amini. Mahsa Amini, we have her picture. She was in Iran, 22 years old. Didn't wear her hijab, so of course the morality police arrested her in Iran. She died in a re-education class in prison where she was physically abused by Iranian authorities. So apparently this is where...
What happens when a talk show host combines endless grievances, a touch of selective outrage, and a memory that conveniently ignores what doesn't fit the narrative? You get Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of do as I say, not as I've ever done, reigning supreme over daytime TV debates.
It's all about. Either you want it to work forward thinking, you want everybody to have the ability to say how they feel, what they want to move forward, or you don't. Or you want somebody who says, I'm going to be on day one, I'm going to be a dictator. Who says it to you, tells you, I'm going to put you people away. I'm going to take all the journalists, I'm going to take all the gay folks, I'm going to move you all around and disappear you. If that's the country you want, you know who to vote for.
Just when it seemed like the show had hit its peak of theatrics, Kayleigh McEnany arrived with a stack of evidence more extensive than a holiday sale receipt. Goldberg, ensconced in her familiar rhetoric, didn't see it coming. It's ironic how confidently one can contradict themselves and still be caught off guard by someone armed with actual research.
Groping and electrocution of their genitals. Welcome to Iran, Whoopi Goldberg, but apparently it's harder to live in this country.
Well, it's 2025.
The moment Kay donned her "let me educate you" smirk, you knew Whoopi was in trouble. With facts as her weapon, Kay delivered a calm yet pointed takedown that left producers nervous and PR teams scrambling. Kay wasn't there for a casual exchange. She was there to challenge the long-standing narrative that Whoopi has carefully maintained.
Not have the privilege of being on a talk show without her hijab and talking about the Iranian regime and challenging them and criticizing them any day of the week. That is what Whoopi Goldberg experiences in the United States as a successful Black woman. In fact, the laws against women especially going out and assembling in order to fight the authoritarianism in Iran, that is met with death. Like, you can receive the maximum penalty.
Let's take a step back to examine Whoopi's track record of contradictions. Here's someone who once declared certain expressions unacceptable, as though accountability were an optional feature. It was clear then that this wasn't a voice of reasoned thought, but rather someone navigating debates like it was an online thread instead of meaningful dialogue.
I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're Black.
She sat there like the outspoken relative at a family dinner, delivering critiques as if hosting a giveaway. You get a lecture, everyone gets a lecture. But Kay wasn't there for handouts. Armed with facts, dates, and a composed demeanor, she waited patiently as Whoopi launched into her usual mix of outrage and contradictions. When Kay finally responded, it wasn't loud, It was devastatingly precise. Whoopi's ever-changing stances were laid bare, from defending free speech one day to advocating for cancellations the next. Kay calmly dismantled every claim with evidence, leaving no room for rebuttal.
To say that bad things didn't happen previously in this country, but on Juneteenth, where we recognize the emancipation from slavery, Texas, the last state, on this particular day, and she does this the day before, she's ignorant of the facts. I want to try to be kind because my expectation for Whoopi Goldberg.
While Whoopi grew increasingly frustrated, Kay remained poised, delivering rebuttals with calm precision. It wasn't the facts or logic that unsettled Whoopi, it was Kay's unwavering composure. Her tone conveyed, "This isn't personal, but your argument is flawed." Predictably, Whoopi pivoted to her usual defenses, claiming victimhood and reminiscing about the good old days. But this time, her loud retorts fell flat. Kay, unshaken, responded with clarity and patience, turning the segment into a quiet but impactful revelation.
This goes beyond the pale, because if you can't see where we're coming from, then you have no hope for where we can go. That's as racist as anything else I've heard.
When loud rebuttals failed, Whoopi shifted to an emotional anecdote, vague enough to avoid scrutiny. Kay, however, was unfazed. In just a few sentences, she cross-referenced dates and countered the claim with precision, adding a polite remark about a potential memory lapse. The subtlety of her response was cutting. The audience couldn't miss the irony of Whoopi's inconsistency being exposed so thoroughly. Even attempts by her co-hosts to steer the discussion were no match for Kay's unrelenting logic.
Research packets on The View, but they need to start.
There's no question. By the way, Harris also in the last hour on her show was really brilliant on this about it being Juneteenth and about how black people in this country now can rise to be a great anchor, or they can be a doctor or a lawyer. And I don't know what Whoopi was talking about, but when she played Gannon on Star Trek, she actually was a bartender talking to people and meeting them where they live. She's not meeting.
At one point, Whoopi made a last-ditch effort with an unverified claim, only for Kay to counter it with a specific reference, leaving the studio stunned. Kay didn't need dramatic quips. The silence after her response said it all. Her approach wasn't aggressive, it was methodical and factual, leaving Whoopi visibly unsettled. The internet exploded with reactions, while media outlets struggled to frame the exchange in Whoopi's favor. Kay had set a new standard for accountability in live television.
It goes beyond the pale, because if you can't see where we're coming from, then you have no hope for where we can go. That's as racist as anything else.
The tension in the studio was palpable, a stark contrast to the usual controlled environment. What began as a routine exchange quickly spiraled into a fascinating display of composure clashing with chaos. The panel's collective struggle to maintain their polished demeanor only highlighted the situation's gravity. In the midst of this, Kay stood out, her quiet confidence acting as an anchor of logic in the swirling storm of opinions. Without raising her voice or resorting to theatrics, she wielded silence like a scalpel, cutting through the noise with remarkable precision. Every pause she took seemed to expose cracks in the arguments around her, leaving the panel scrambling for control. The aftermath was equally telling. Commentators rushed to reshape the narrative, attempting to diminish the impact of what had transpired. Yet, the audience clung to the moment, a rare instance where logic and clarity triumphed over spectacle. In a world dominated by theatrics and performative outrage, Kay's understated approach was a refreshing reminder of the power of reason. Her silence, far from being an absence, resonated as the loudest statement of all.
One more thing, Iran just passed another law at the end of last year, making it even worse for young women and girls, where they can be put to death for this, for showing their legs, like the women on The View. It's unconscionable that she would try to make a moral equivalency here.
Yeah, how offensive. I mean, Emily, there are a lot of courageous Iranians who have stood up to the government, young women in particular, and said, no, I want freedom, and they've lost their lives because of it. I mean, does Whoopi have any
The tension in the studio was palpable, hanging in the air like a heavy curtain. What began as a routine exchange quickly unraveled into a dramatic showcase of composure clashing against chaos. As the panel shuffled nervously, visibly unsure whether to intervene or simply pretend to read their cue cards, Kay stood firm, unflinching in her quiet confidence. She didn't raise her voice or resort to theatrics. Her silence spoke volumes, cutting through the noise with the precision of a scalpel. Every pause in her delivery felt intentional, a space for the weight of her logic to settle in. The panel's attempts to maintain appearances only highlighted the stark contrast between Kay's measured responses and the unraveling disarray around her. Commentators, eager to soften the blow, rushed to spin the narrative. But the truth was clear. The audience had witnessed a masterclass in clarity. In a world where bluster often overshadows substance, Kay's calm dismantling of arguments was refreshing, almost revolutionary. Her approach was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful rebuttals come not from shouting but from quiet, undeniable truth. The moment lingered, leaving both the studio and viewers with the realization that logic, when wielded effectively, is the ultimate trump card.